Thank you. If you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, we're moving to the public comment period of our evening. We don't have anybody signed up. Is there anybody that wishes to speak during public comment? All righty, hearing none. Moving on to the approval of minutes. Council, any corrections, additions, or deletions to the minutes presented? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
Make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it, minutes are approved. Moving on to updates from council, I'll just say one update. Parks and Rec did a wonderful job with Christmas in the Park, so thank you to them.
Thank you for mentioning
Absolutely.
that.
You have any other updates from council?
The lot on 25 at South Chase is finally empty from the old Saving Gas
It does look
Station.
good.
And I appreciate Mark and the staff for kind of staying on top of that and getting that taken care of.
Well done.
Our pleasure, and we were just as happy and relieved as you and the public to see that.
I had a lot of calls. I had several calls
Yeah.
expressing thanks from folks in South Chase.
Thank you.
Good. Any other updates from council? All right, hearing none, moving on to the consent agenda. Any questions, comments, or concerns of any item on the consent agenda? All right, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? I'm sorry.
I'll just add one thing, Steve.
Sure.
The resolution was modified slightly for the auction of the items.
Yes, I read that.
And you saw
Yeah.
that,
I
with
saw
the
that.
Dodge Durango added from the police department. So
And the
that's-
trailer was put back
And the
in, so
trailer,
we
yeah.
got that all
Yep.
situated.
Yeah, thank you for working on that, Christine. All right, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, the ayes have it, the motion carries. Moving on to our first discussion item, item number 8, the presentation of the year-end audit report for fiscal year 2023-2024. We have Ms. Carol Avery. And thank you for being here this evening. Yeah, I know, I heard you were running. I appreciate you making it.
I left at 4 o'clock, believe it or not.
Oh, my gosh.
Terrible.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The audit has been sent to the LGC and approved by them, and the town received an unqualified opinion on the audit, which is what's required by the LGC. And so I'm going to go over the highlights like I usually do each year, and then if anyone has any questions,
You're good.
then just let me know. All right, on the general fund, at the end of the year, you had $10,609,339 of cash, which is an increase of about $357,000. Of that, $10,048,000 is unrestricted cash. Restricted cash, you have for Cal bill of $544,000, and for public safety is $16,285. Your total assets in the year were $11,625,878, which is an increase of about $375,000. And most of that increase is due to your increase in cash. And your fund balance at the end of the year was $11,500,380. Your total revenue for the year was $10,060,676, which was an increase of $1,097,000. The increase was due to ad valorem taxes had an increase of about $377,000. You had grant revenue of an increase of about $233,000. You had got a grant for $235 from the Office of the State Budget, Regional Economic Development, and y'all used that, I think, for body cameras and I think cameras in the vehicles for your police officers. So that was an increase of $200,000. Your interest increased by $264,000. Your land use permits were up about $168,000. Recreation was up about $26,000. And that was all of that kind of totaled together contributed to your increase of a little close to $1.1 million increase. Your expenditures were $9,778,000, which was an increase of $1,423,000. General government was basically the same. You had an increase of about $20,000. Public safety had an increase of about $481,000, and that was mostly due to an increase in salary and benefits, capital outlay, and your fire contract increase. Your economic development actually went down about $18,000. Transportation was up about $296,000. And transportation, the increase was salaries and benefits, increase in capital expenditures, and capital outlay. And your cultural and recreation, your parks and stuff, that went down about $98,000, and that was the year before. I think you'd had a good bit in capital outlay, and you didn't have that much in the current year. And then your debt increased about $742,000, and I believe this past year that y'all made some additional debt payments, and so that was what increased that. And then in the prior year, you had a transfer in of $2.6 million from the COVID money, which was not there this year. And then your other financing sources and uses was an increase, was $98,000. $25,000 of that was from the sale of some assets. You had new leases of $40,000 and IT subscriptions of $33,000. And you had an increase in fund balance of $380,594. You appropriated to use $1.3 million, but you didn't use anything. You actually added to your fund balance of $380,000. So that was very good when you had appropriated as much as you did and didn't use any. You actually added to it. Your ad valorem taxes were $5,230,000, which was an increase of $377,000. I believe that was mostly due to probably some reevaluation that you had from the year before, increased that. Your percent collected is 99.81%, which is basically the same as the prior year. The state really hasn't come out in the last couple of years with kind of an average for towns, but the last one that they came out was a town your size, about 98.53, so you're above the average in that. Your investment income was $444,204, which was an increase of $264,000, and that's due to having about $350,000 more cash than you had in the prior year, and also the interest rates that did pretty well this year. Your available fund balance was $108,000, 108%. And you have the town has a fund balance policy of a minimum of 45%, so you're well above the minimum that y'all have set. And then this year, we don't have any other funds. Last year, we had the CSLRF, which was the COVID money funds that you had received and transferred into the general fund. That's all I have related to the financial numbers. If anybody has any kind of questions or comments.
We have questions or comments? Doesn't sound like it.
No, it's pretty good, did pretty good.
Think
Heather
so.
does a wonderful job. I've always said every year, I said she does the best of any client that town or municipality that I work on. Does a wonderful job with the audit and providing the information to us in your excellent format.
Yeah. And Heather, we thank you for all your work. I know you work extremely hard every year on this, so we appreciate it.
She starts early and has it well organized, so I just make one, our unassigned fund balance is a little bit over the 65%, so that upper threshold. So at some point, we'll probably talk to you about, the excess revenues. I mean, likely towards storm damage expenses would probably be the logical, rather than existing debt or other things under our fund balance policy. FEMA should cover most of it, but as you know, it's maybe in the 75% range. So.
Sounds good. Well, we appreciate you, thank you. And we don't need to approve anything for this, do we?
I don't think we have to take action, no, yeah. It's just a
Okay.
presentation.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And if anybody has looked through anything and has any questions later, be glad to come back or a phone call or whatever, if there's a question about something or clarification, anything, don't mind to do that.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All righty, moving on to discussion, item number 9, the public hearing regarding a 12-month moratorium on the new development in floodplain. As a reminder, we made an approval last month, but procedurally, we didn't follow directions as well as we probably could have, so we need to have the public hearing. After we have the public hearing, we'll be able to approve this again. So let's hop into that. So we got a motion to enter the public hearing to approve the resolution regarding 12-month moratorium on new development within the designated floodplains.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to enter the public hearing. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of entering the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, we are in public hearing. We don't have anybody signed up. Is there anybody that wishes to speak during the public hearing? All righty, hearing none, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
Make a motion.
We have a motion to close the public hearing. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of closing public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, we're outside the public hearing. Now we just need a motion to approve resolution number 2024-04 regarding a 12-month moratorium on new development within the designated floodplain. Would anybody like to make that motion?
I'll make
Oh.
that motion.
And I just had a comment
Sure.
on it. So it's a 12-month moratorium, but will likely be coming back sooner
Quicker,
than that
yeah.
with information. We'll be working with McGill Associates to kind of evaluate our floodplain ordinance regulations, look at some options, should you decide to make any changes or things to improve it or beef it up, so to speak, and it likely be before that time has elapsed, so.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I know John made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the moratorium, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, the ayes have it, and we're in a 12-month moratorium. And thank y'all for making that correction for that. Make sure we did everything procedurally correct. Moving on to discussion item number 10, the recommended street resurfacing projects and estimated budget. Mr. Ben Cathy, the floor is yours. Thank you for being here this evening.
Really quick, Mayor, I don't know if I can keep
Got a long agenda.
I know y'all just got a copy of that. Mark, my understanding is 230 was the budget, is that correct,
Yes.
for the year?
Yeah, for the year. And we'll likely, Heather's gone here, but we'll get one more deposit in our account. It comes in 2 installments from the state when they send the
bill.
revenue. I'm anticipating, I can't guarantee the second one, I think comes in January. It will probably be a little bit above budget. So, just quickly looking at the estimate that McGill Associates has provided, Ben will go over. Of course, we'll have this bid competitively. I think that's still within the realm, within what we have in the account and what will be dispersed, remaining funds into it to try and do it without going to fund balance, so.
Sounds
for
good.
Powell fund balance.
We could either take a road off and bid it and add it back, or we could bid it like it is, see what our units are, and if at that time we decide that we do not want to proceed, we can always take a street out at that time. So we could knock some quantities off to control that budget, since we will be doing a unit price contract. So I don't know, is there any items on there that anybody has a question about with South and North Sunbury Trail and Wild Meadow Road? Went out with Jabo and looked at those. So, like I say, our budget's 276 out of that 230, but traditionally, my estimate is a little higher than what we receive a bid for. So I hope that continues. This year could be a little bit suspect. Don't know what the workload of the contractors will have on that effect right now, but checked with one paving person. He doesn't anticipate that to be too crazy, so he thinks we'll be okay, but as far as following general patterns, so.
Yeah, I think if it hits or more, lower than that, we'll still have some cushion in the dispersing account on this for other Powell bill expenses that we have during the year.
Okay.
And this is in Livingston Farms. Did you say that, or did any of us?
I did not
I think we said that last week, yeah.
Yeah, last week.
Okay. What questions or comments do we have?
Is there a lot of the road that needs to be tore up and use the ABC and stuff on, and then,
If you look, North Sunbury had none,
yeah,
and you could look at the quantity on South Sunbury Trail had the most. But, as far as us marking out areas, that was the areas that had the undercut's the tricky part. We're just not sure until we get there, but we had the patching, most patching was on South Sunbury Trail. So, and it wasn't, compared to some that we've tackled some in the last 3 or 4 years that were, that set in South Chase, we did a pretty rough stretch over there, and Snowball Lane.
Snowball,
yeah.
yeah, so it
Was
was
quite a
pretty,
chore.
yeah.
But I think we were 7 or 8 feet deep and pulling logs out on.
Really?
thank goodness it was a short road.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and the good thing is the continuum last year, we had none, so it balanced out, and we were still very close to the budget, so it's, I anticipate we'll have a little bit of undercut here, but it was nothing like Snowball. So
Okay.
compared to that, we're in great shape. So I think this is a pretty typical year, I would say, compared to what we've normally seen.
Do you know if there's any roads that's been impacted by the storm that's going to be coming up in the future, near future?
a good
Me and
question.
Jabo have not looked at any on the road or culvert side. Everything's mainly been the park that I've been looking at so far on that front. This, actually, the lower end of Sunbury Trail was underwater, but I don't think it really had an impact on the road. By the way, the looks of it, it wasn't flowing there or anything like that. It just got submerged and then.
Yeah, I had asked, and I don't know how much he had shared with you, Ben, but I had asked Jabba to look at all our town-maintained roads, and from his review, he didn't notice any culvert damage or road damage anywhere. Now, I can't guarantee something doesn't turn
Right.
up.
Yeah, something could
That
be
we're
wrong.
like, oh, that probably happened as a result of the storm, but at his review on there, thankfully didn't show damage to culverts or other road. Now, there were some private roads that were damaged, so.
All right, what other questions do we have, if any? All right, hearing none. We appreciate you, sir, for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Very strange to not have Sheila up here.
I agree. I mentioned it's weird looking at it from up here, I know it.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll work on, or McGill will work on a bid package for that, and then we'll get that going by January, I think. So, yeah, and then
Bring back the results.
February. Yep. All right, thanks.
Sounds good. All right, moving on to item number 11, the selection of applicant to fill the remaining term in District 1 on our council. Last week, we had Mr. Mitch Bavard, Brandon Olson, and Ms. Amber McKinney come up and tell us why they wanted to serve and anything else they wanted to mention. But this evening, we have one other candidate here who wasn't able to be here last week, Ms. Jessica Roselli. And I apologize if I pronounced your last name wrong. But if you want to just take the stand and tell us why you want to be appointed, a little bit about yourself and anything else you may want to share in just under 5 minutes. And then after that, we'll open up the floor for questions from council if they have any.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me serve.
Absolutely.
I'm from this area. I grew up a few towns over. I'm from Swananoa originally. My husband and I have been married for 16 years, moved to Fletcher 14 years ago. We have 2 children, 2 boys, 11 and 13, that I currently homeschool. I have worked in healthcare my entire career. I have kind of an obscure healthcare career. I work in 340B, and that is named for it being part of the 340B, part of the Public Service Health Act. And so I work to help hospitals and community health centers obtain drugs for a cheaper price. So my previous government interaction has been advocacy work, trying to make sure that state and federal officials know about 340B and what it stands for, how it helps folks. So my previous experience has been writing letters and, just trying to help people understand. I'm interested in serving just because I really have an interest in healthcare. I feel like I would be able to help people spread the word about access to healthcare, access to medications, and kind of have the platform of the town to help get that message out. Also have a huge interest in education, so the library project that has been in the works for Fletcher is a big thing to me. That's short and sweet, but that's pretty much why I'm here.
Sounds good. Well, I'll open up with one question. I think in your app you mentioned growth and change in Fletcher. And what do you think growth and change will look like here in Fletcher in your perspective?
So, because I'm a mom and have children, one of the things that I would really like to see grow in Fletcher, of course, the park is great, but adding to the park, adding more things, especially for older kids, as well as some business growth to add places for kids to be, right? So they stay out of trouble. So places that teenagers can be, things like bowling alleys and just public spaces that kids can be. That would be a great way, I think, to extend the town and grow business, as well as restaurants, meeting places. The auction house that opened, that's a great space. Lots of restaurants together, but also bringing people together with open space. So seeing more places like that.
Okay. What other questions do we have or comments?
I think she answered mine.
Yeah, sounds good.
I asked the question, same question I've asked all the other ones. I keep it all the same. I know this, the seat's open till 2026. Are you planning on running a campaign after that for the same position?
I would like to think so, yeah.
All right, do we have any other questions, comments? All right, sounds good. Thank you. We appreciate you being here this evening. All righty, council. I'm not sure if we have any discussion, but we do have some, let's say, want to pass it down. We do have our ballots, so if we're ready to vote, we can vote just for procedure, so everybody knows. I don't vote in the matter. It only takes 2 votes to be appointed. Council, obviously, just check your preferred candidate and write your name at the top. And when you finish, just pass it down to me. And the votes will be in the agenda. So that would be, in minutes, excuse me. Yeah.
Yes.
All righty. And it is unanimous. Congratulations to Ms. Amber McKinney. You have been appointed. And you will be sworn in January. We look forward to serving with you. Thank you to all the candidates for applying. Again, I think we've hit a really big turning point in Fletcher where we're seeing a lot of involvement from the community. So I implore you all to be involved in other ways, even though this may not be the way that you're involved right now. There's a lot of other opportunities to be involved in our town. And again, I thank you all for applying. Any other comments from council members?
I just am impressed the number of people we had put their names out there and put themselves out there. I think that says a lot for the town and the interest out there. And I just want to expound on what you said, is there's other committees and things in the town, and I really encourage y'all to all that didn't make it get involved. I think it'd be a good opportunity.
Absolutely. Anything else from council?
just the quality of our candidates make it really tough. I mean, I think everybody's a
Yeah, I
good
agree.
choice, honestly.
Indeed.
I agree.
Well, Ms. McKinney, congratulations again. We look forward to serving with you. You'll be sworn in January at our agenda review meeting.
And we'll get in touch with you between now and then and give you some information and everything to get you started.
Yeah, there'll be some orientation type meetings, so, or at least one.
Sounds good. All right, well, we thank you all. All righty, moving on to discussion item number 12, the budget process for fiscal year 2025, 2026. I think we all looked at the schedule last week. Did anybody have any conflicts? The one person we don't know is Amber yet, so Amber will make sure to get you that schedule and just let us know if you have any conflicts.
Yeah, and I'll need to make sure to email that to Amber. I'm just making a note. Yeah, just a reminder that kind of 3 key dates on here. We have the budget work session that'll be on January the 13th at the regular meeting. So we'll be coming a little bit earlier at 4 to do that. It's not a real long period. This is just some high-level general comments from department heads on any big picture items that we're looking at, like maybe a big capital project or additional staff requests or something, changing a service, adding a service, and then kind of past year accomplishments. So that's that. And then we'll break for dinner before we would go into the regular meeting at 6. And then the other key date is the March 18th, and it's on that table I put in your packet. That's for the presentation of the full budget request from department heads and staff, or myself and Heather go over revenues and other things. And so March 18th, and that's from 8:30 to generally 3, it's whenever we get done. And then the third key one is the presentation of the recommended budget, where I'll present that to you at the May 8th. And that's, we usually have some type of breakfast at 8, and then it starts at 9 until it's done. We're generally done by noon or earlier, depending on how fast it goes. So those 3 key dates, the January 13th, March 18th, and May 8th. And unless there's a conflict, we'll set that and be prepared with information, everything for those milestones or those dates.
Sounds good. Did anybody have any initial conflicts with the dates?
No.
Okay.
Good.
All sounds good.
Good.
Then we'll just make sure Amber's all.
Yeah,
aware of
I'll need to get
and,
that to her.
Sounds like
yeah.
it'll work well.
Great.
All right. Any other questions, comments about the process? All righty, moving on to discussion item number 13, the request for an easement from the gas company. Mr. Manager.
Okay, so this is something that came up since agenda review, and the gas company, so back from the storm, there was damage to a gas line kind of near where our Greenway Trail extends out to Mills Gap Road. It was somewhere in that vicinity. There was damage to the line. It's a semi-urgent matter to kind of keep this going along quickly to get that fixed. They had to get easement requests from several adjoining landowners. The specific location that affects the town is, it's right there where our Greenway Trail goes underneath Mills Gap Road, so it's kind of right on that north side of Mills Gap Road. It would just go underneath our greenway right there. It's the paved, part of the paved portion. I don't anticipate any issues in the future if you grant this easement. It's not like we're going to be building a building on there or something that would be a problem for kind of the restrictions of the easement. You can't, be putting trees or building buildings, and the stream bank, the integrity of that would be important to kind of keep that so it doesn't erode into the trail like it did on the south side from the storm. And so in your packet is I did a memo on this, and then there's a calculation of a payment based on the amount of land area that they would want the easement for. It's at $1,388. I checked the math on that, and it comes to that. And then there's a easement document, which I've reviewed, and I've had our town attorney, Joe Fariquez, review these things, and he was comfortable with it. And the last thing is just kind of a map, and you've got another map that came today that depicts the area where it goes. It actually goes underneath. This gas line is a boring, it's a directional boring, so it'll
They
be.
will have to disturb the surface
Correct.
of the walkway.
Yeah, there's none of this will be above ground right there. I mean, there might be further down that I'm unaware of, but our portion, it should all be going underground. They'll go under the creek and under the trail, and somewhere way down the line it pops out, so,
So it's super low impact.
yes, yeah, I mean, you don't even know it's there.
Yeah.
But, if we grant this to them, we can't be going then and pulling up the trail and putting a building down across it, or, there's some things like that that would be an issue. And, the likelihood of doing something different is very low. This will probably be a greenway trail forever, so, so that's essentially it, but I let the gas company know that I need to bring this to council for approval, since we're granting an easement, and we could just do that administratively.
All right, what other questions or comments do we have?
I think it's a good spot to put it.
I think it is too. Yeah, it's pretty
kind of a no-brainer.
non-controversial, yeah. What, do we have a motion to approve the easement as presented?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the easement as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, motion carries. And then moving on to your town manager's report.
Okay.
Yours again.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, just several things. Again, and some of this I covered last week, but I'm going to run through and add one other thing I added in here. So the Helene recovery, storm recovery efforts are, continue to be underway here. I've talked to you at length about the cleanup efforts at the park and kind of the projects that we have to do there. We've set that up with FEMA. We've had 2 meetings with FEMA to make sure that they're properly categorized. We're comfortable with that. We kind of feel like we're ahead of the game as far as at least checking the boxes at this point to get this to be FEMA reimbursable. And again, it's about 75% typically that you get on the costs. And we also had, and this is so it's competitive and we can try and get reimbursement of our engineering expenses. We're doing an RFQ for the engineering services, and that's due on Monday, the 16th. So, so all those things are underway. As soon as we know the engineering firm we would be using, then we want to go to them to start setting up or getting assistance as much as we need with bid specifications for the different projects, so we can get that competitively bid per federal and state requirements and get this work underway. We do have one that has been bid, one component of all the work, and that's we have the bids in now, and so we need to go through them and make a decision. It was the dirt and the laser grading for the ball fields, and it was fairly significant of the debris that went through, and having to kind of remold them and make sure that they're surfaced right and right depth and the laser grading and so forth. So that's underway. Everything else, we don't have bid packets together ready to go or bid specifications. So that's something we'll be working on and try and push that along as quickly as possible. But the highest priority one will be the ball fields, because, we know in the spring, we'd like to be able, if it's ready, to be able to have that for baseball and softball, so. So that's kind of, oh, and the debris removal, probably the other thing I want to mention, it continues with SDR, which is the contractor through the county. The next thing they're moving into now, and they asked us for information, is this construction and demolition materials or debris. So they're first kind of focused on the vegetative stuff, so brush piles, trees, and now they're going to the construction demolition debris, C and D, which would be like, for example, things people took out of their house if it was flood damaged. And the businesses, like behind Fletcher Business Park, and they've made a good dent on that, but that's kind of the C and D. So we've kind of sent them priority information. The county's supposed to have a meeting, I can't remember, this week or next week. County officials with the municipal managers to kind of update them where they're at with storm response. Probably we're going to talk about debris removal a lot. Because that's kind of the biggest logistical thing of impacting a lot of people's lives here, is getting rid of that debris. So, so that's underway, and that's kind of where we're at with the storm recovery efforts, unless there's any questions on that.
Now, you said they're moving on to C and D,
Yeah.
and I've noticed they have picked up some, but there's still a ton of vegetation. So
Yeah,
are they just kind of changing gears and then coming back?
I don't know if
Because they're not really picked up?
I think they're doing it, well, that's a good question, and it's something I guess we could ask. My understanding is it's simultaneous.
Oh, so it's a different crew.
Yeah.
Who's gonna be doing-
They just, I guess they want to start on the C and D stuff,
Yeah, I agree.
and vegetative debris, so brush piles and that has not ended. So that's still supposed to be underway. And again, really strongly encourage, if you have a debris pile and it's to the right of way, go do the form online that the county has. We have the links on our website, or you can go directly to Henderson County's and put the information in as much detail as you can, your address, site. If you want to put pictures, you can upload pictures, you know, what it is. So just to have a good, clear record, because, you know, if they're driving around and they may not see it there, and we're trying to make sure they're making multiple passes, but, you know, if you've got it at your address and they know, okay, it's at, you know, Keith Reed's house, this address, you don't put your name, you put your address and that in there, they know that that's there and not going by it. So it will continue to encourage people to do that, but I think simultaneously they're doing it, yeah.
I think they've done a really good job, though, on the jobs that I have seen, because I know originally we heard 12 feet, then 25 feet, but I've seen some of the stuff on St. John where they've cleaned up the whole lady's yard. I mean, they went well above and beyond cleaning up the mess and getting it taken care of, which was,
Yeah.
I think they're doing a great job.
Yeah.
And I spoke to them, they're a really nice crew,
Good.
so I was impressed with them.
It's just, this is a enormous
Oh,
it is.
job. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why we continue to ask for the public's patience and
Yeah.
and getting through it. Because, I mean, this is countywide, they're doing it, not just in Fletcher, so.
I know one of the questions I've had from my development specifically, and there's even some on my street from my house. On their map, they showed also they were gonna pick up some hazardous materials, stuff like
Yeah.
paints, chemicals, things like that. There's a lot of that stuff sitting out that I hate to see a kid or somebody get in the middle of, because there's a lot of kids out playing. So I would be I know there's a lot of C and D stuff, but the kids are less likely to get into that than they are some of the bottled and canned stuff.
And knocked over and then rained
Yeah,
on and
knocked
spilled
over in the
out.
rain and get into the water
Yeah.
shed system and stuff like that, so I'd be curious to know what their timeline is on that one.
Good question. It's the hazardous materials, or, I forget how they're
And we-
exactly, I think that's how
Yeah,
they're.
I think we were
I think it was
all-
hazardous waste.
Hazardous waste,
Hazardous
yeah.
waste was there,
I think we were all invited to that meeting.
yeah.
And again, on that,
I know stuff has been sent in about it.
Yeah.
And then it's just still been sitting
Okay.
there forever.
I would
so-
just encourage people to do the online and
Okay.
specify that, and if they could take pictures. 'cause
I know
that
some
just-
people have been like, I don't want to do it again because I don't want them to feel like I'm
Yeah,
They're doing
okay,
it, but still.
right, but if they've done it, that's good, that's important. Okay, thank you. I know I mentioned the essentials of municipal government, well, we have a new council member coming on, and this is open to existing council members. I know,
Did you get my email?
I know,
Okay. I didn't know what you wanted to do, you just let me know.
Jim, you've registered. and-
I've registered, I took it last year.
Yeah.
But as a new council member, now that I've been on a year, there's a lot of things I'd like to go back and revisit, so I felt like I'd go again.
Good. And Keith's expressed, but not sure if you're going yet, and then we'll open that up to Ms. McKinney on this as well, so.
And this is the same one that we had in Biltmore?
Yes.
At that one time?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
to refresh that, I just.
Yeah, and this is in Kannapolis, and the dates are January 30th, 31st in Kannapolis. I might only be able to go to the first day of it. I have a conflict with the second day. I don't know I'll be able to be there, but I can go for the 30th, because managers typically, not always, but usually they go to this with their council members. So, okay, good. And I'll get that information to Ms. McKinney. And let's see, farmer's market, I mentioned, we've been researching and doing some work with some help from the extension office and from a nonprofit group, and survey results are in, and I think we're at our deadline on it, so we'll kind of try to put that together and download the final response. But they've had good responses on it, there is interest, so I'd say there's a decent likelihood, and I'll continue to update you on it, that we could start one possibly in the spring. They usually run about May to October. And I'll keep talking to you about the sites that we're trying to narrow it down to in Fletcher. So that was encouraging, and I'll keep you up to date on it again. The last thing I wanted to mention, and I know we put information out about it, it's been on our calling system, Blackboard. Jabbo Presley's put a message out on it, and we've got on our website leaf collection. We are doing that for the month of December, and there's a lot of leaves to pick
Yeah.
up, so they are really
Long
busy, and
bags.
they're behind as compared to how they normally progress with this. Because we do it, in October through December normally, and then 1 month in the spring, I think in April is when we do that. So, but we're just doing it for December. You have to call in a request for it, and you can do it online, or you can phone it in, but that is available. So, they were doing it with a contractor, but they had to be in paper bags, and people didn't know that, or some people might have, and we do it with plastic.
Yeah, right.
So, and that's all I had.
No, we're still picking up appliances, that kind of type stuff with the
White-
call-in,
call-in.
whatever
I
it's called.
think they're doing that with white goods still. Yeah, white goods pickup. The brush pickup, we still have suspended.
Yeah.
Call-ins for that. That may resume at some point, because I know they'll get, the contractor that's doing debris removal will get that, but, I mean, we're gonna have new brush pile, and that's, brush pickups has been such a big part of what Public Works has done as a service for years here. So at some point, we'll need to resume that. I'm not sure when. So, and let us know, if you're hearing from residents or constituents that I wish we had brush pickup back, or whatever it may be on that topic, so. And that's all I had.
All righty, questions for Mark? All right, no questions. Do we have any other business from council before we go to closed session? All righty. Do we have a motion to enter closed session for personnel matters?
Make the motion.
Okay, we have a,
I'll second.
Motion and a second to enter closed session. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of entering closed session, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? We're in closed session. Y'all have preference?
Same little room.
Yeah, we're back there again.
Unless you want me to start it up and stop it again. If it's easier for you just to stop it, go ahead and